We're going to open this work session, and this work session will not have any votes. This is informational meeting for the council and for the folks from the rock group. They had asked for this meeting and to explain themselves, and Mr. Brad Wickens, I think, is going to be the spokesman. So, you come on up.
Generally, we start these things out with you identifying yourself, name, address, of course, a quick picture with, and each person has 15 minutes in which to speak at the work session.
Okay. My name is Brian Wickens. I live in New Albany. I'm president of an organization called ROCK, which is based out of Louisville, Kentucky. I would, if you don't mind, and I certainly want to be respectful of your rules, and just thank you, and council members, thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. I was not aware of the 15-minute limitation, and I certainly want to try to stay within those restrictions. If you give me just a little bit of leeway, I certainly would appreciate it. And I'm an attorney, so it's really hard to speak.
Can you turn the microphone up?
You hear it?
I hear about
You need to get closer to the microphone.
Is that better?
Yes.
But no, again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come speak tonight. I know that it wasn't a matter of being on the agenda, and you made the time for us to come speak to you here at the work session, so I do appreciate that.
Louder. That wasn't us.
Well, I will certainly try. I'm a soft-spoken guy, and I can assure you, if you thought I was going to come here and be in any way disrespectful, hateful, or anything like that, somebody would be sorely disappointed, because that's not how I conduct myself or what we do. We simply want to try to have a dialogue, and I thank you for what you said at the outset of this regarding Theater X and the enforcement of the ordinance here in Clarksville. And I will tell you at the outset, I wish I wasn't here. I mean, I don't relish this. This isn't something I look forward to, and not something we wanted to be. And I certainly don't want it to be a situation where I feel like an adversary with respect to the ordinance and enforcement to possibly provide information that could be useful in that regard. We do find ourselves in an unusual position tonight because what we've found repeatedly is we've been very successful in working alongside and with government officials, with law enforcement, community leaders, political, faith, education, and across the board, never against them. And in this instance, we're just trying to figure out why we are where we are and trying to work with you when it comes to Theater X in this situation. I've never had the chance to meet with most of you before tonight, although we have asked in the past for that opportunity. But we were allowed to meet with certain representatives from Clarksville and Councilwoman Appleby. We were able to meet with her as well. And I know this last week, Mr. Isbury, we tried to have an opportunity to sit down with you. I know you had to cancel. We were looking, or had to cancel. We were looking forward to that. But it's my prayer, and it will continue to remain my hope, that after we've had a chance to talk, maybe take this information, that frankly we'll have an opportunity to just thank the council, as I think we should do, in doing the right thing when it comes to Theater X, enforcement of the ordinance, protecting us from all the harms that are associated with it. We know that there are many that don't want us, frankly, to address this issue in the community or address this issue head on here tonight. Believe me, there have been attacks, efforts to intimidate, hateful statements, and certainly some names called because of what we're trying to address with the activities taking place at Theater X. And I know that those are the ones to go away. But we were here long before Theater X was an issue, and hopefully here long afterwards. But we feel like we have to do this, and it's the right thing to do. And I hope that in any way that anybody deals with me or Rock, that you'll find that it's done respectfully. That's very important to me. Not mentioning any names, name calling, personal attacks. There's no place for it, nor will we ever do that. We're not protesters. I hope we'll never see any hateful statements, anything like that. We want to be about doing the right thing the right way in whatever we do. Rock is based out of Louisville, started 5 years ago because of the proliferation of the sex industry in the Kentuckiana region. And at its core, Rock is just working very hard to create a higher standard of decency and create a wholesome environment for all of our families in which they can flourish in this region. How did Theater X even come up? I kind of wanted to take you back to that because, like I said, Rock's based out of Louisville, but I live over here in Indiana, and when I took the position of president of Rock, if you would have followed me around at all, there wasn't a week that went by probably that someone didn't come up and ask me, is there something that can be done about Theater X? Can you address that issue? And you might imagine there's a lot of people that care about these issues that just want you to just jump right in and say, we're just going to get rid of something. But we're well aware of the fact that you have to do it the right way, that there are constitutional issues at play, and you can't just charge in and do that. Plus, you have to know what are you up to? What are we even talking about? And in this instance, just like we do in any, we have to figure out what is the situation and what are any solutions if that's needed. We don't go into these businesses. In this instance, we retained a professional and former special agent of the FBI with 20 plus years of experience in obscenity and child exploitation who went in to do the research. And this isn't just a recent issue. He first went in August of 2006, so this goes back some time. And he's been in a few times since then, several times. So this isn't, I know that there's been a comment in the paper that maybe this was an anomaly, that this kind of thing shouldn't go on, that it was just a one-time deal. It's happened every single time that he's going in the same kinds of activities, which is no longer an anomaly. I mean, we figure that's a routine and a pattern at that point that we're up against and dealing with. And frankly, what he found, because I, like a lot of people in the community, drive by it and probably didn't have a clue, and just thought, well, maybe there's some DVDs being sold. And I'm not trying to diminish that, but I think probably the thought was there DVDs, some novelties, and that sort of thing, never dreaming that he would uncover and find what he found. And we deal with this all the time across the region. And what he found was incredibly shocking to us, and I never could have dreamed it. And I guess I do want to be respectful. I did see some youth here tonight, and before I talked a little bit further about any of those issues, I want to give them, or their parents or anyone else, an opportunity to leave the room, because I do feel like we need to have a discussion of what we've uncovered and what we found. In the course of his research, under one roof over here, what he uncovered was an area. You have your DVDs in your area up front, but he uncovered an area where there are women dancing, and sometimes men as well, but women dancing who were willing to engage in sex acts for the right amount of money. And then there's another area of this, under one roof is this business where there's 40-some peep booths. And if you don't know what a peep booth is, it's a separate individual room with a door on it, in this instance with locks. And what you have in this scenario is at any given time, you might have 20 to 30 people milling around outside these peep booths, waiting to go in, engaging if someone's going into the one next to it. So you have these doors slamming at all times. And inside the peep booth, you have a little monitor that will show an adult film. You can only pay cash to go back to these areas. You're given some coins ostensibly to watch the movies. And then, like I said, these doors are slamming. Well, what's happening is someone's gauging who's going in this peep booth so that they can go into the adjoining peep booth. And what we discovered is engaging in anonymous sexual activity with each other between the holes in the walls. And it's just a constant, ongoing thing. And you have fluids all over the floor, all over the place, tissues everywhere. And he actually threw away his shoes when he walked out. He said it was the worst thing he's ever seen, and he couldn't believe that it was still here today. Then you had another area where there's two giant theaters in the same facility. Theater 1 is typically only males, and in that facility you can go in at any given time. And what he encountered at least was men who were masturbating right there in the room in front of each other. And then a second theater where it was predominantly men all week, but then opened up to the heterosexual couples on the weekend. And again, all of those areas you have to pay cash to go back to. And I'm sure you can imagine, as many others, were absolutely blown away when we found out that this was going on right here in our backyard, in our community. And so the question is, well, what do you do next? Well, what we have to do first is go for our solutions. Once you find out that this kind of activity is taking place, well, what's in place? A lot of times communities have to pass an ordinance to be able to deal with this issue, sexual-oriented businesses, and regulate them. What we found, we were very pleasantly surprised, is when we actually took a look, and I don't think many knew about it, was that we found that in 2005, This council, and I know some of you might have changed since then, but in 2005, this council, in doing what a lot of communities do, caring about the community, families, and children, passed an ordinance that addresses these issues and regulates sexually oriented businesses. And so we were thrilled to find that there's already an ordinance on the books here in Clarksville. And in fact, if you look at the first 2 pages of that ordinance, if you flip open, it actually goes through, and I won't take the time given the time limit, but if you go through it, it just lists all of the reasons why this ordinance should be passed and the kinds of activities and the harms that are associated with sex businesses. And you just look at a laundry list of all the sanitary conditions, the sex activities inside, the holes between walls, all of the things that need to make sure we're protected from the community and aren't happening. They're listed right here in this ordinance as the reason for passing it. And the thing is, if you read through that, the very activities that you, the council, listed as the reasons to pass an ordinance to make sure these things aren't happening in our community are the very things that, as I just shared with you, the kinds of activities that are taking place inside of Theater X based on what we found. So it almost reads as a script that these are the things we don't want to have happening and we want to protect the community from the harms. But the very things that we want to protect and make sure aren't happening are right there in that business. So that was very concerning to us. And if you go through and tick through the ordinance, as far as the violations, the licensing, I know that the business is required to have a license, the individual is required to have a license. In fact, we just discovered last week through the article in the paper that they were granted licenses. And frankly, we were stunned because of the information we believe is required to obtain a license. And we're concerned about the investigation. We had one young lady who's indicated to us that she never remembers even signing any documents to apply for the license and that she later got. And then with the activities that we've uncovered taking place inside that business, even if the license has been granted, which we think it never should have been, then there's provisions to suspend it and revoke it. And based on the activities that we have found, it clearly seems that there's a complete basis to revoke it.